Hey guys, Troy Francis here. I wanted to do a video talking about what is a high value man. And the reason that I want to do this is because I think it's helpful both for guys watching, because we want to know what do we mean by this phrase, which gets bandied around a lot in the men's online space. And it may be helpful to women as well, because we want to clarify this idea. You know, what are we really looking for here as far as high value men are concerned? Now, very roughly speaking, and as a TLDR, a high value man is simply a man that is coveted by other women sexually and who other men admire and women are sexually aroused by. Okay, not just attracted to, they're actually sexually aroused by. That is a high value man. That's kind of it. Now, often when these conversations are had on podcasts and shows and so on, people will go to great lengths to try to bring other factors into this. So they will say, well, what about, you know, is he a good man? Is he noble? Is he caring? Is he righteous? Is he a pillar of the community? You know, all of these different things, and trying to bring these different parameters into it. And all of those things are great and they're very nice, but certainly as far as any study of the sexual marketplace is concerned, they are irrelevant because morality doesn't come into it. Sex, remember, is amoral. As a species, we are amoral. I'm not saying this is how it should be. I'm just saying this is how it is. We are invested in our own interests. And that's the way the sexual marketplace is. So if we're looking at this through the lens of dating and through the lens of relationships, okay, then a high value man is simply a man that, as I say, desired by women, admired by men. That's all there is to it. Whether he is moral or upstanding or ethical, those things are secondary. Because to be completely honest, you could be a drug lord and you could be wearing an amazing tailored suit, you could be living in a wonderful mansion, you could be having a fantastic lifestyle, you could be decent looking, you could be in great shape, whatever. In many ways, you know, you would be perceived as somebody who, this imaginary character, he is desired by women, he's admired by the guys. He's also somebody who is, many would regard as a scumbag because he is dealing in narcotics, okay? He's making money from that. Maybe people are becoming addicted to those things. Maybe people are dying as a result of them. Purely from the point of view of the sexual marketplace, his ethical, his moral standing is not an issue. It's a separate thing. Which leads me then to discussing, okay, so what about money? Okay, what about money and position? You know, how much does that really come into it? Often, and I think there's some confusion around this point, because often when we talk about a high value man, people will assume, well, it's all about money. And it kind of is. I mean, money does play into this, of course, because if you are somebody with resources and the ability to access resources and to make moves within the world, which is what money gives you that ability to make moves, to make waves within the world, then those things are undoubtedly attractive, but those things really are a proxy for power, aren't they? Money is power. Money gives you power, okay? And women are attracted primarily to men who are powerful, and money, as I say, is a proxy for power, really. But the fact remains that the people online, the people on X, who say, well, you've just got to have money, bro, and you know, that's all they want these days, these women, are wrong, because there are plenty of rich dorks who aren't getting any action, okay? Believe me, because we teach them, we coach them. Not that they're dorks, they're very lovely guys, they're very personable, many cases very, very intelligent, well put together, good looking, all of these things, but they're not getting the results that they want in dating, okay? Why is that? Well, it's because they lack something of this other kind of intangible element, which is important in a high value man. So money, yes, it can be part of the puzzle, and it probably often is, but that's different from saying that value is only determined by somebody's net worth, because that's not the case. Because conceivably, you could be somebody with a very high net worth, the access to a lot of resources, but maybe you're getting sex, but it's very transactional. You're getting women who are after you because of your money, but you're not getting genuine desire. And of course, what every man really wants, what every man really craves, is genuine desire. No man really wants to be the prey of gold diggers. In fact, no man does. I mean, you could meet a woman who is absolutely stunningly beautiful, you know, of model quality, but if she's only there because of the money that you have and the resources that you can potentially give to her, then that's no good. You want that desire, right? Every man wants that actual desire. You want her to actually want to be there, okay? So money in itself is not the only thing, although it can be part of the puzzle. What about looks? Well, is that part of being a high value man? I think that being in good shape and being well groomed and being well dressed. I think there's a good argument for those things being part of being a high value man, because this is about really showing our best self to the world. Okay, this is about being the most self-fulfilled versions of ourselves that we can possibly be, the most self-actualized versions of ourselves that we can be. And part of that is looking after ourselves, right? Part of that is being in the best condition that we can possibly be in for the moment, right? So I think there's some value in that. Looks, I think, are subordinate in the dating marketplace ultimately to power and status, okay? And the reason that I say that is because when we were in Russia back in 2021, before the conflict started, we were, and I say we, I mean myself and James Tusk, who I work with a lot, we spent a lot of time in Sochi, which is a very upmarket, upscale, tourist, seaside resort, like party place in Russia. And we spent some of the summer there. And we were at some pretty upscale clubs, some pretty upscale parties. And you would see these guys who were clearly socialites, who were clearly very, very highly regarded in that milieu, surrounded by stunningly beautiful women. And these guys were not great looking. These guys were not, by any means male models or anything like that. Quite sort of average looking, sometimes quite big, quite well put together, whatever. But, not Calvin Klein models by any stretch of the imagination. And yet they were surrounded by the most beautiful women in those venues. So what does that mean? Well, it means that there's something else, isn't there? There's something else. And without a doubt, these guys had money or had access to money and resources, okay? But again, there's this intangible thing, isn't there? Which is about status. It's about having leverage within society, or at least within the social groupings within which you are a part. So with this, we're getting a little bit closer to it. It's not really look. Yes, of course, can be helpful. I mean, you can get your foot in the door with looks, but there are very good looking guys who work as baristas, or they work as mixologists at nightclubs and stuff. And I mean, or bars in Mayfair in London. Are they getting some action? Yeah, of course they are, probably. But are they really attracting the very top tier of women? And more importantly than that, are they hanging on to those women? Are they engaging in anything longer term with those women? And the answer is no, because what those women actually are looking for is something beyond looks. It is social leverage. It is the ability to move within society and to affect the course of events around oneself. Guys who are able to do that are guys who have social leverage, okay? Guys who have power within society. So the next thing that we can consider is fame. And of course, actually, fame is probably the highest in the hierarchy of high-value man traits. Now, obviously, not everybody is famous. Most people aren't famous. Okay, fine. But fame is, if there's one thing that you would say would mark out a high-value man over any other element, it would be fame. Fame is always pretty much gonna knock everything else out of the way. I remember hearing on a podcast a story about some guys who were at a party in the south of France, and they were talking to they were on a table, there were some girls there, they're having good interaction with these women, it's all going very well, and these were very, very high-value guys, probably male models and, socialites and whatever. And then, all of a sudden, Leonardo DiCaprio walks in to the party, and it was like a vacuum, a black hole suddenly appearing, and all these girls were sucked into the vortex of Leonardo DiCaprio. And the person who was making the podcast was saying, well, look, I mean, there is no universe in which you can compete with Leo. And, whether you are, I'm sure there were guys who were very good looking there. I'm sure there were guys who were rich there. I'm sure there were guys who, in their own way, had social standing and access to resources and so on there. But fame is the thing that will trump everything else. So it's that visceral thing about fame that women really respond to. And let's try and unpack this a little bit, because why is that? What is it about Leo? I mean, you look at Leo, who's famous, of course, for cycling through all of these models who are under the age of, is it 24, 25, and being very successful in that endeavor. Is he the best looking guy on the planet these days? Probably not. He doesn't appear to be in the greatest shape a lot of the time. There are certainly dudes who are objectively better looking than him and objectively in better shape than he is. If you look at some of those beach photographs and when he's out on yachts and things like that. So why is he the one who is living this this lifestyle? Well, obviously, that movie star appeal, that fame, is such a huge aphrodisiac. Okay, why is that? Well, visibility, I think, is very important. I think as human beings, peacocking, not only being the thing, but being seen to be the thing, is very important. There could be a dude who is a super powerful hedge fund manager or somebody who works in tech or something like that, and they have a huge amount of influence and probably a huge amount of money as well. But because they're a bit more under the radar, because they're a little bit more anonymous, they're never going to get quite the same level of attention and adoration that somebody like a mainstream movie star is going to get. So being seen to be that leader of men, being seen to be at the top of the tree, is almost as important as whatever that actually means. You know, whether he is the richest guy in the world, he obviously isn't. And, you know, if you take it down many, many rungs from someone like Leo, you could be a TV star, for example, in the UK, and you would, not on that level, but you would be getting a lot of attention because of the fact that you appeared on Love Island 2 years ago or something like that, right? Are you the richest person in the UK? Absolutely not. Are you the richest person in London? Absolutely not. Are you able to make moves in society in the same way that somebody who's higher up on the social ladder can? Absolutely not. Doesn't matter. You've got the fame, okay? You are ticking that box. So fame could be said to be a component of a high value man. However, of course, not everyone is famous. So fame is not a necessary part of being regarded as a high value man, but it's worth discussing in this conversation simply because it is so potent and it is so powerful. And if there's a way that you can add an element of fame for guys out there to your arsenal, then it's seriously worth doing, because fame is that missing piece. It is that missing X factor. So anyway, we've talked about money. We've talked about sort of social status. We've talked about looks. You know, I suppose we could lump height in with that as well. How important is height? You know, I mean, it's obviously pretty important as far as attraction's concerned, but that doesn't necessarily make a high value man, does it? I think that the high value man archetype, there's a bit of an X factor in here, which is very intangible and it's very hard to define precisely, but I want to try to talk around it a little bit, because the problem with all of this stuff, and we'll see what people say in the comments, but the problem with all of this stuff is that any designation you make about somebody being high value, people are going to disagree with it, or they're going to say, yeah, but, you know, what about that drug dealer who was, you know, who's sleeping on his friend's mattress and he's having sex with supermodels and so on. And you do hear about those stereotypes, and this is where the whole manosphere thing about, you know, well, chase excellence and work hard and work out 5 times a day and, you know, have cold showers and you know, all of this kind of thing starts to sort of unthread a little bit, because of course we all know about the guy who's a complete bum, who's a complete loser, who, well, in a material sense, who is nevertheless getting laid like a carpet. Okay, is that a high value man? Well, I mean, in a sense, he is, because he's somebody that women desire. Okay, so in that, he's got that sense of the equation, and probably he's admired by other guys because of his ability to get access to those women. So in a sense, he is a high value man. But then you'd look at him objectively, you'd say, yeah, but this is just some dude sleeping on a mattress who's probably smoking weed all day and, you know, has nothing going on for him. So how can that guy be high value in the same way that, you know, the celebrity is, or the rich, ripped guy on the yacht is a high value man? And this is where this sort of somewhat intangible aspect comes into play, because there's a little bit more to it than just the material. There's a little bit more to it than just the way you look. It's the way that you carry yourself. It's the way that you behave. It's the way that you are able to come across in social circles, in social situations. And this is precisely where the pickup artists of the early 2000s came in, because it was this side of things that the early guys like Mystery and Neil Strauss and Owen from RSD, Real Social Dynamics and so on, were seeking to teach guys. What they were seeking to teach guys was, okay, if you can imitate the X factor, if you can project the personal qualities of some of these dudes, then that's enough. Don't worry about the external things, or don't worry about the wealth and the good looks so much, or the tailored suits or any of that stuff. What's important is, can you shine socially in the way that these people with charisma are able to do? That's essentially what Game was, really. It was sort of faking it till you make it a little bit. And it worked pretty well. And it continues to work pretty well for guys. But there is this X factor that's involved in the high value man thing. I've got a little anecdote to illustrate this. So I was a couple of years ago in a cigar lounge in London, and I was with Tristan Tate. This was before the case in Romania and everything else. And we were having a cigar, and the waitress who was working there was this attractive girl, I think from Poland. You know, she was coming backwards and forwards to the table and bringing us the coffees or whatever it was. And Tristan was kind of talking to her, flirting a bit. And at the end of the interaction, he got her contact details. And I believe that they then met up again a few times after that when he was in London. And the point about the story is that at no point did he say to her, and she didn't know who he was. At no point did he say, "Oh, by the way, I'm Tristan Tate. Look at all these pictures on my phone. Look at my cars, look at my houses, look at my X, Y, and Z." Now, there's some mitigating things here because he was well dressed, he was in an expensive place, obviously decent looking guy, obviously in shape, whatever. So he was ticking those boxes, those things. She could see those things. But the point is, in that instance, he wasn't relying on the external validation that others gave him. He wasn't relying on saying, well, I am this person, I'm that person, whatever. I have this many social media followers, I've done this, I've done that. It was the personal charm that he was able to exude that drew her in, okay, and that she was attracted to. He didn't need to tell her any more of the details. He didn't need to tell her who he was. Now, I get that this is somewhat going against the fame thing, but two opposing ideas can coexist in the same universe, guys. And obviously, if you have that immediate outward fame, that's going to draw people to you very quickly. But another component of this, which is a somewhat deeper component, probably more useful to the rest of us who aren't famous, is that if you can emanate that X factor, if you can emanate that charisma, that is so important as being part of the package of the high value guy. And I'm sure that any female viewers here can co-sign this, right? Because the high value guy, really, it can't be just about money. It can't be just about looks. It can't be just about the way that he dresses. It has to be something more than that. Because there's plenty of people who are rich who aren't getting very much action. There's plenty of people who are quite powerful who aren't getting much action. There are guys who are good looking who are not getting much action, okay? As unbelievable as it might seem, all right? We coach them. I've coached guys this year who are very, very decent looking and they haven't had a girlfriend in over a year, okay? They haven't had sex in over a year. Why is that? If it was all about looks, it would be easy for those guys. There is more to it, okay? It is this intangible thing. So, high value man, the components we've talked about are money and status. And look, those things are important, without a doubt. The thing about money, and actually Tristan made this point as well, I think on a separate occasion, is that the thing about money is it's not so much the money in itself that is the deciding thing. It's more the experiences that can be purchased with that money. So obviously, if you're dealing with a woman and she's, this very beautiful high-class woman, and you say to her, hey, listen, why don't we put our bags in the trunk of the car? We'll drive over to Italy. We'll spend some days in the Italian countryside. We'll go down to the coast. It's going to be amazing. What do you think? Obviously, that is going to be more appealing to her than if you say, well, look, we can go to McDonald's and we can buy a couple of Happy Meals. It kind of stands to reason, okay? So it's not necessarily that she's a complete gold digger who's just going after the cash, but it is that she wants to live a life that's fun and exciting and full of infinite possibilities and potentialities. And the high value guy, or the guy at least with money, is more able to offer that. So I think that's the key thing really with money. For the most part, I mean, there are women obviously who are gold diggers, but so we talked about that, we talked about looks, and we talked about celebrity, which is undeniably a component of some high value men, but we don't, not everyone can be famous, so we can kind of detach that one a little bit. And then the other thing is this sort of X factor, this kind of charisma. And fortunately for guys, that is something that can be developed. That is something that can be learned to a certain extent. I believe that that's a very important part. And actually, I've met, a number of guys very prominent in, say, the manosphere space, for example, who are very, they've got fame within the space. Okay, they've got very big followings on social media and so on. All of those guys, maybe they have some money, maybe they're in great shape, maybe they've got a nice car, but beyond that, all of those dudes have this great personal charisma about them, okay? They have this X factor about them. I think that is indivisible from the archetype of the high value man. There has to be this added component. Otherwise, it's like having... What's a good analogy here? It's like having a cappuccino without the chocolate sprinkled on the top. It's great, it's a cappuccino, but it doesn't have that extra special thing. So there needs to be this added component. Anyway, enough of that. That's my view on high value men, or what I think a high value man is. Very keen to hear yours, so please write a comment below and let me know. Do subscribe to the channel. Do hit the notifications bell for notifications of upcoming videos. Give me a like, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.